It's 2 in the morning over the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. 35,000 feet below you is nothing but black water. There are no landmarks, no lights, no land for hundreds of miles in any direction. Just darkness, ocean, and 228 people asleep in their seats. The pilots of Air France Flight 447 had done this run dozens of times. Rio de Janeiro to Paris, a long overnight haul, routine, comfortable, boring even. Captain Marc Dubois was so relaxed he'd put on headphones and was listening to opera. He even leaned over and let his co-pilot listen for a moment. "All that's missing is the whiskey," the co-pilot joked. That was at 1:47 in the morning on June 1st, 2009. 14 minutes later, the plane was gone. Not crashed, not on fire, not sending a mayday, just gone. No signal, no wreckage, no explanation. 228 people vanished in the middle of the night over an ocean the size of a continent. It would take search teams nearly 2 years and tens of millions of dollars to find out what happened. And when they finally pulled the black boxes off the bottom of the Atlantic, what they found inside was something nobody in aviation was prepared for. Because the plane didn't go down because of a mechanical failure. It didn't go down because of a storm. It went down because of 3 tiny tubes the size of your finger, and one decision made in the dark that nobody could take back. Let's go back to the beginning. Flight 447 took off from Rio de Janeiro just after 10:30 p.m. on May 31st. It was a big Airbus A330, modern, sophisticated, one of the safest jets in the sky. There were 216 passengers on board and 12 crew. Most people were already settling into sleep before the plane had even finished climbing. It was that kind of flight. Because the route was 13 hours long, Air France rules required a third pilot. So there were 3 of them up front. Captain Dubois, with nearly 11,000 hours of flight experience. First Officer David Robert, experienced and solid. And then there was First Officer Pierre-Cédric Bonin, 32 years old, with around 3,000 hours total, the least experienced of the 3. At around 2 in the morning, the captain decided to take his scheduled rest break. He handed control to the 2 first officers and went to lie down. Completely normal. It happens on every long-haul flight. The plane was on autopilot. They were cruising at 35,000 feet. There was nothing to do except watch the instruments and wait. Bonin was in the right seat, Robert was in the left, and somewhere ahead of them in the darkness was a band of massive thunderstorms stretching across the intertropical convergence zone. A rough patch of weather that every single pilot on the route knew about. Most other flights that night had already gone around it. Flight 447 flew straight in. Now here's where it gets complicated, and this is the part that nobody outside of aviation really understands. Inside those storm clouds, the temperature dropped viciously. And on the nose of the Airbus A330, there are 3 small sensors called pitot tubes. You've probably never thought about them. Most people haven't. They're little hollow tubes that stick out into the airstream and measure how fast the plane is moving through the air. That's it. That's all they do. They measure speed. But speed is everything to a pilot at 35,000 feet. Too fast and the aircraft could break apart. Too slow and it stalls, meaning it stops generating lift and falls out of the sky. Those 3 little tubes were the difference between flying and falling. At 2:10 in the morning, ice crystals from the storm blocked all 3 pitot tubes simultaneously. For less than 60 seconds, the speed readings became unreliable. The autopilot couldn't work without accurate speed data, so it did exactly what it was programmed to do. It disconnected. And suddenly, Pierre-Cédric Bonin was manually flying a wide-body passenger jet at 35,000 feet over the Atlantic Ocean, in the middle of a thunderstorm, in the dark, with instruments he couldn't fully trust. He had never practiced this. Not at this altitude, not in these conditions. High-altitude manual flying is a completely different animal from anything pilots train for near the ground. The air is thinner. The controls feel different. The margins for error are razor thin. And Bonin panicked. Instead of holding the plane level, or gently pushing the nose down to maintain speed, he pulled back on his side stick, hard. The nose of the Airbus climbed. The plane shot upward from 35,000 feet toward 38,000 feet, like a car hitting a speed bump at full throttle. Multiple alarms started firing in the cockpit. The stall warning screamed at him. And here's the thing that should chill you. He didn't let go. 3.5 minutes, as the plane stalled and began falling, as the alarms blared, As Robert desperately tried to figure out what was happening, Bonin held the stick back. Full back, nose up, the entire time, even as the plane fell at nearly 11,000 feet per minute, even as the ocean rushed up at them in the dark. Why? Because his low-altitude training had hammered one instinct into him. If you're losing altitude, pull up. Pull up, pull up, pull up. That's what you do close to the ground. But at 38,000 feet in a stall, it's exactly the wrong move. Pulling up made everything worse. It increased the angle of attack, killed the lift, and accelerated the fall. The plane was screaming at him to stop. He couldn't hear it. Robert tried to take control. He pushed the nose down, and for a brief moment the plane began to recover. The speed came back, but then Bonin grabbed the stick again and pulled back, and they were falling again. Meanwhile, someone finally called Captain Dubois back to the cockpit. He arrived about a minute and a half after the autopilot disconnected. He walked in to find two pilots arguing, a plane plummeting at nearly 200 miles per hour straight down, and alarms going off everywhere. "What's happening?" he said. Nobody had a clear answer. At 2 minutes and 14 seconds after the autopilot disconnected, they were passing through 10,000 feet. The ocean was seconds away. The ground proximity warning system started screaming, "Pull up, pull up." Bonin, trained to respond to that alarm by pulling up, pulled up. At 2:14 and 28 seconds, Air France Flight 447 hit the Atlantic Ocean. The plane was intact when it hit. The engines were running. There was nothing mechanically wrong with the Airbus A330. It was, as one investigator put it, crashed into the ocean by pilots who did not understand what was happening to them. 228 people. No survivors, no mayday, no warning. Just the black boxes sitting on the bottom of the ocean for nearly 2 years, waiting to be found. And when they finally were, in April 2011, the last words recorded on the cockpit voice recorder were from First Officer Robert, less than 2 seconds before impact. "Damn it, we're going to crash." He was right. The investigation revealed something that changed aviation training forever. Modern jets like the A330 are so automated, so reliant on computers to do the flying, that many pilots had lost the basic instinct to hand fly at altitude. The autopilot had been doing it for them for so long that when it suddenly wasn't there, in the dark, in a storm, the skills weren't sharp enough to take over. Aviation expert William Langeviesch called it one of the great ironies of the modern cockpit. The safer you make the automation, the less pilots get to practice flying without it. And the less they practice, the worse they get. And the worse they get, the more dangerous those rare moments become when the automation suddenly steps aside. After the crash, airlines around the world changed how they trained pilots. High-altitude stall recovery became mandatory. Simulator sessions now force crews into the exact kind of situation that killed Flight 447. Automation gone, instruments uncertain, nothing but your hands and your instincts. The goal is simple: to make sure that the moment the autopilot goes dark, the pilot is still there. Still sharp, still flying. Because the plane didn't fall out of the sky that night. It was held there, in the dark over the Atlantic, waiting for someone to let it fly. And nobody did.